Hello, I'm Simon Wray,
Hello, I'm Justin Canning.
and welcome to our podcast.
Welcome.
So I was straight into it.
Yeah.
I noticed the latest stats from MCS,
Yes. Yeah.
and 2.5 million accredited installs.
Yeah.
But I also noticed that the government figures suggest that there's less than 2 million. So they've already got some number issues there. So I can only
Bit of
imagine.
a discrepancy.
Absolutely, but there's got to be more than
That's
2.5
15
million.
years of counting. Something's bound to go wrong during that period.
And MCS only covers systems up to 50 kilowatts.
That's it. Yeah.
So there's got
Yeah.
to be more than 2.5 million systems out there.
You'd think so. Yeah.
But it did get me thinking as to the aftercare situation. That's a lot of systems, and statistically, not everybody's going to have an active system.
Statistically, what percentage of those don't get any aftercare at all?
It's an interesting one to go and try and find out.
I think it would be. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
well, what's your perception of aftercare? I mean, you've been in the industry for quite a while.
I think aftercare is both an installer responsibility and a client responsibility. And I think it can only be an installer responsibility if they're still engaged with the client and if they still exist. But it's certainly, it's about monitoring performance, protecting the investment, thinking about how that system is going to be looking in 10, 15 years' time. Are you aware of all the different components, whether it's on the roof or the inverter, the cabling, etc.? So, you've got to maintain a relationship with your client, I think, from the point of view of, delivering a service or a responsibility towards that person that you've started a relationship with. And all too often at the moment, as we've alluded to, there's a lot of systems out there that aren't being looked after for whatever reason. And there's lots of different reasons. That's not a blanket kind of accusation at any one particular part of the industry or the stakeholder sort of base. It's just about the complication of looking after a technology that does actually require constant support.
I mean, it makes sense. I don't think we need to make a case on aftercare, but I'm interested to try and understand how many installations are actively managed. So once the warranty period's over, you'd imagine that domestic installations, I mean, solar and battery are quite simple. They're very safe.
Yeah.
You would probably argue, do I need to be spending money on a maintenance plan?
Yeah.
Whereas commercially, I think it's more important. And I think when insurers start getting more involved now, I think we're going to see more questions being asked to say, what are you doing about this?
Yeah.
But, like I say, in your experience, have you gleaned enough information to be able to make a judgment on what percentage of installs are maintained?
I mean, it's hard to say because you only hear about the scenarios where there isn't, unless you're looking after the systems and your own responsibility, that's fine. But as an industry, it would be hard to say how many of those systems aren't actually being looked after, maintained properly. It's definitely an opportunity for a lot of installers out there. There's a lot of historical installations that go back 10, 15 years now that could well do with some investigation, not least from a performance point of view, upgrading the inverters, whatever it is. There's obviously a lot of businesses out there that are already doing that are marketing towards that MCS list. There's obviously a lot of data out there that people can pick up and work with and aim a servicing or an aftermarket service too. But I certainly think there's room for improvement. And we do get calls either from people that are calling around and trying to understand what they need to do, and they're trying to get quotes, and they will vary according to how much that installer feels they have to do. Do they have to get up onto the roof? Can they just look at the inverter? There's a very simple sort of cheap way that you can assess the system, or there's a much more involved sensible approach, which I guess will depend on how long the system's been up there for and whether it's been inspected regularly or not.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose from
Paperwork.
Yeah, it makes sense. I suppose from my experience, you'd imagine when a system's new and it's under warranty, you kind of, it's a fit and forget, and you don't worry too much about it. And then if somebody's there trying to sell you a maintenance plan, and you're like, well, what exactly are you doing? You know, a bit of window cleaning and
you know. Well, we're similar mindsets at home, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think the issue that creeps up is it's just that atrophy over time.
Yeah.
And you've got external factors. There could be birds nesting, and you know, wires could be damaged from that, or you know, there could be water pooling on the roof for whatever reason. There could be a connection in there that's going to be leaking away, or you know, it's about keeping an eye on it, I think. And
and you got facility managers who are employed to do that very thing, aren't they?
They're accountable, but
they're accountable, and they've got a budget to work with, and they need to, you know, take a view on every single element within a factory, say, and that's their professional understanding of what they're managing, and that's great. But then you've got something like a school where, you know, it's a bit of a grey area, like who's actually going to look after
that's a good point,
the system, you know, and if that person who originally was there when it was installed and they've moved on, and there's a load of MCS paperwork sitting in a folder, who's actually going to notice that in 5 years' time and think, oh yeah, no one's looked at that solar?
Yeah, well, we've obviously experienced that firsthand, where it just falls between the cracks, that it's just something on a roof and nothing needs to happen, and it just works.
Yeah.
So under normal circumstances, that's absolutely fine. But I think what's really going to drive people to consider more about the installation and the risk is insurers are going to start asking more and more questions. Are they going to expect certain things to happen, or you're going to have to be able to evidence that you are maintaining it to a degree?
I think there's a change in why and how people get solar systems installed now, particularly with businesses and you know, farmers and businesses, say 10 years ago, were installing off the back of a feed-in tariff, and they were aiming at the best bang for buck feed-in tariff subsidy, you know, up to 50 kilowatts, whatever it was. And they might still have loads more room on the roof for more solar, or they might have more need because of the amount of electricity they're consuming. But they went for that system, and that's the size, and it's earning its feed-in tariff, and they've forgotten about it. You know, the money keeps coming into the bank every year. You know, they obviously have to do some reporting, but you know, if they, off the back of that reporting, if they're doing their due diligence, they can sort of monitor the performance of the system themselves.
It's a fit and forget type situation.
No pun intended, obviously.
Yeah.
But the onus now is slightly different because the systems are that much bigger. You know, they're better value for money now. So people installing bigger systems, and they're getting a return on investment, which is really important. But it also means they've got a lot more panels on the roof. You know, they're taking up a larger area. So they do need more, need to take more, make more attention, pay more attention is what I'm trying to say, to the systems on the roof that's delivering value.
So they're making changes to their install, and then suddenly the insurer pops up and says, hang on a minute, what are you doing about this, and this? So there's probably people, what you're saying, I'm putting words in your mouth, but people currently might not be aware that insurers have an expectation. And it might not be well communicated, and that could be an issue for the insurance industry, not specifying what their expectations are. Clearly, it might be in the small print somewhere.
Well, that's part of the problem, isn't it? Well, insurance is small print, infamously hard to access and get through.
It could well be, yeah, because you just see a price.
But they have to pay attention. I had a call from a client today, and he was specifically talking to me about what his insurer was asking him.
Okay,
and I've said, okay, that sounds interesting. And he was talking to me about a system that was installed by a business that went out of business 2 years ago. The system was only installed 3 years ago.
Right.
You know, so it didn't take long for him to be left high and dry.
Well, talking about installers leaving the industry for whatever reason, I think that's a podcast all on its own.
Oh yeah,
actually.
yeah, we can go there.
So maybe we'll park that. I'll make a note of that, and we'll because that is interesting, and I think there's a lot of reasoning behind that, and there's I think there's a lot of other factors there as well, and it's money oriented.
We can call one of them the solar coaster, if you like, you know, and
I've heard
dig
that
into that terminology.
Around. Yeah, I know it's been around that a long time. That
it has, yeah.
But I suppose, you know, that figure of 2.5 million really got me thinking about you know, that's a huge amount of risk for insurers
Yeah.
that they want to mitigate. They're entirely in the business of risk mitigation, you know, and insuring the asset. And they're going to have some expectations. So I imagine that we're going to see more and more demand from insurers coming up.
I hope so. I think that's
it keeps systems
good.
safe, and it you know, it should help mitigate.
But you've got manufacturers now who are marketing their fire safety approach. So that's great.
Yes.
You know, that's really important that there are manufacturers out there who put standards first, and they use that in order to promote their goods.
Yeah.
You know, so that promotes best practice, and that's different, you know, USPs, etc. So that's really important that the industry are taking on that kind of mantle, you know, to improve the offer. And, and I think part of the, you know, the thing with insurance companies is that, yeah, we need insurance. We need these PV assets to be insurable. So as an industry, we've got to work with the insurance business. You know, I know the trade associations are already doing that. The best practice guides are there for the purpose of the insurance industry, and that guidance needs to be updated. I'm sure it is. But, you know, we need to make sure that everyone is signing up to that.
Yeah, I think it's becoming more prevalent. It's an area where more interest is being taken, and I think, you know, aftercare for me, you know, looking at it from the outside looking in, originally it very much seemed like it's an optional item.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, you know, there are people, you know, who have systems that, you know, I've been and seen on their roof and I provided a quote for, and they still haven't come back to us to say, yes, can you come and repair this, please? You know, they've identified the issue, you know, and that was, you know, 12 months ago in one case. That's actually a solar thermal system that's come down, broken, etc. A couple of PV panels that need replacing. They've had the quote, but they still haven't made a decision on getting it done. So the responsibility is kind of a two-way thing. Like, you know, the client has a responsibility to manage their own asset, but the installer has to also be there to maintain that relationship with that client, to educate them about what they could do and what needs to be done.
I think it's a really good point, actually, because if the insurance industry is recognizing that clients are not self-helping by doing it without being prompted, they're going to demand it. Yeah. So customers could start to see this in their renewals, and when they declare that's on. Yeah. And it shouldn't be an issue.
No.
Because if it's installed to a standard, then you'll be able to satisfy the requirements of the insurer.
Like your house insurance, if you don't properly maintain your house, you won't be insured.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't maintain your roof.
You've got to declare, you've got to accurately declare what you've got.
If a loss adjuster comes along and looks at your roof and goes, you haven't done anything on that for the last 20 years, then you're not insured.
You're not going to be covered on that item, if you've had a leaky pipe for 20 years.
And that's really frustrating as a homeowner, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a nightmare when they come across that scenario, but it's absolutely fair enough from the insurance industry's point of view. Like, how can they insure something if it's not being properly looked after?
I wonder how we can help, and we, the industry, can help. Because
bang a drum.
I think we've got to start running things like CPDs for insurers to help guide them, so that there's some continuity to their requirements.
Yeah, I think that's definitely. I mean, I guess the trade bodies are doing that to an extent already. I think there's an element of lobbying that they do at that government level, and, you know, at that kind of city of London sort of level where all the insurers, the big insurers, are based.
Well, brokers as well, because brokers are the ones who've got to interpret the requirements.
Local businesses.
They interpret the requirements and send it to the insurer, don't they? The underwriter. So maybe there is an underwriter level of education, but I think brokers
might be a dry one to deliver.
It could well be. Yeah, I'm not saying the most interested, and I'm not necessarily volunteering to do it, to be honest. But I think you know, it's an area that is under observation.
Yeah, I think you obviously, like a lot of things in life, getting people's attention and drawing them to these important critical areas is a process, isn't it? And unfortunately, we see many examples of, you know, until something goes horribly wrong, issues aren't properly addressed.
I think that's
and without trying to scaremonger, you know, that there is an element of us having to sort of, obviously as an industry, remind people, remind people that it's a very safe technology when installed properly and it lasts for a very long time, etc. But also remind people that, all that money that you're saving every year, well, maybe if you spent 5% on that, with a maintenance contract with a reliable local installer, then you might be able to stay on top of that investment and, do away with longer
But it
term
requires education, doesn't it?
and
Because
issues,
either you're going to have customers who do this out the box and recognise that it's needed.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm really surprised to hear that, you've got public buildings have got installations on and no active maintenance program. I'm sure that's, anywhere where there's the public.
Yes. Yeah.
You would imagine that they'd have that absolutely buttoned down.
I would assume public sector environments and buildings are probably, on the whole better maintained, aren't they? Because there's more of a budget than a private enterprise who doesn't necessarily bring this.
You say that, but
a guy,
we've got
a business will only fix his roof when it's leaking. Until it starts leaking, he doesn't really know he's got a problem with his roof, does he?
But
or am I being too cynical?
Possibly a bit cynical. Yeah. It's hard to broad brush because everybody's different.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't appreciate what maintenance and aftercare means and does, and it's not just a sunk cost.
Yeah, well, because we promote these technologies as having 30, 40 year warranties, don't we? Like, you stick it out there, you'll be fine, you forget about it. Actually, hang on a second.
Well, how often have you had yours serviced at home? By a third
put me on the spot now. Well, as an industry professional,
it's all right to say it's all right to say never.
But you know what? I've been up there twice since it's been up there, I think.
But there's not a lot to go wrong.
No.
And you've got, if you want to do a visual inspection under a panel on an in-roof system,
well, that's it.
That's scaffolding
but I look at my monitor every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people obviously will literally fit and forget and not pay any attention to what's being installed and how it's performing.
I think it's going to be mainly commercial and industrial type.
Yes.
But certainly public sector as well is really important.
Yeah.
But you can't treat commercial installations like a residential install. The scale of it's different.
Yes.
The power that's running through it, the consequences that can occur if something does go wrong.
Can I talk about this one I went and saw the other day?
I don't see why not.
God almighty, honestly, it was a mess. I mean, there were DC cables loose, sitting on top of the panels. The client had originally called us up about cleaning the panels. And I said, can you send some photos? Because they weren't showing up on Google Earth. And actually, this had come to us through a roofer that we work with. And he said, oh, yeah, this guy was asking about cleaning. Do you mind giving him a call? Okay, I'll give him a call. Eventually got through to me and he came back to me and said, yeah, we need some bit of cleaning and stuff. I was like, okay, fine. So I actually went along and saw him because he was only half an hour away. Had a little chat. He was the FM, assistant or whatever. He took me down to see the inverters, 300 kilowatt inverters, whole shed load of DC cables coming down. None of them really properly contained. No cable management, just crap all over them, just horrible black dust all over them and underneath the inverters. And I was like, oh, okay, that's not looking great. But anyway, can you show me some pictures? So he showed me some pictures of the roof that they're taking while they're up there. And there was some bird crap on there, but not very much. The main issue they had was all these loose DC cables. I said, that's an issue because they're flapping around. They're exposed to UV. Unfortunately, he didn't see the importance of that. And although we've given him a cost to go and rectify this and deal with this, it doesn't seem to have been something that he's been able to talk to his manager about.
That's interesting.
To actually highlight the issue.
So I think it's an education.
Definitely, yeah.
So maybe we should spend a bit of time educating people.
Yeah, I think, CPDs, information on website, videos, case studies, even case studies of projects that, didn't actually happen, but you think maybe should be happening. So typical scenarios, laying things out like you could find yourself in this situation, that kind of thing.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're pretty much running out of time now.
Is that right?
Yeah,
okay.
That's gone quickly, hasn't it?
Hasn't it? Yeah.
So
time for a cup of tea.
And we've got some ideas for other podcasts as well. So
yeah,
thanks for joining me.
Well, yeah, thanks for sorting this out. It's an interesting discussion, and as you say, there's a lot more notes.
Would you come back?
Here. Would I come back? Of course I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Good.
Yeah, it's been good fun.
Well, thanks very much. And thanks to everybody watching. And we'll look forward to another episode sometime soon.